Hey guys, we're going to go over some of the testimony from the Lindsay Clancy trial today. I wasn't going to actually keep covering this, but then I saw some of the family's testimony today, and I really wanted to go over that with you guys. I think so much of the focus online about this case has been regarding the conspiracy theories, which I think is unfortunate because there's a lot of more important things to talk about. And because those conspiracy theories are damaging, and accounts with hundreds of thousands of followers are using these conspiracy theories to, rake in an engagement farm and make money off of things that are untrue. And before we start looking at the testimony, I'm going to give you an example of that and why you guys need to be really careful about what you're looking at online. Because some of these accounts, these larger accounts, they have a lot of people who follow them, a lot of people who trust them, and they're not really operating with any sort of integrity, in my opinion. And I'll show you why. Put this hat on so I don't have to touch my hair while it's growing out. Okay. If you are watching this on replay, I'll put in some timestamps, so if you want to skip to a certain part, you can, and you don't have to listen to my rambling, but I just wanted to let you know, just in case you're like watching this tomorrow morning or something. But let me pull this up. This is something I posted a little bit earlier, right? There's a woman who left a review a couple months before Patrick Clancy left a review, and people took screenshots of these reviews and said she was his mistress. They were together in Costa Rica in 2023, right after the kid's funeral. Here's the problem with that. Patrick's wife, now wife, Rachel Dennis, is a fertility doctor who he met in 2024 and married 4 months ago. So people who say he moved on in 4 months, no, he got married 4 months ago. And people are reckless and confident. They're confidently wrong, and they do not care to look into things when you try to tell them that's not true. So I want to show you that that's not true. Okay, so this woman, Rachel Dennis, who is Patrick Clancy's now wife, was accused of, or has been accused of by internet psychopaths, of being his mistress and being on that trip with him. However, it turns out it was another woman named Rachel Dennis, an entirely different woman. That woman has come forward and asked people to stop because she is not Patrick Clancy's wife. And I'm going to show you that right now. Hold on. And I'm not going to unmute it because it's just got a song in the background. But this is her. Her name is Rachel Dennis. And she's trying to set the record straight here. But you can see like her TikTok versus these TikToks from slop accounts that are farming engagement that got millions and millions of views accusing Patrick Clancy and his wife of having an affair and being on a trip together. Got millions and millions of views. And this got like no traction. But she saw these videos and saw people reacting to her posts, and she's trying to set the record straight here. So she's got a screenshot of a post in the background, and she's trying to tell this person, hey, that's my review, not Patrick's wife's. There was more than one Rachel Dennis in this world. She even shows a photo of her on the trip that she reviewed to verify that it was her, which she shouldn't have to do, but she did. So, what did content creators do after Rachel Dennis came forward? Nothing. She tried to reach out to them. She tried to get them to remove or correct the content, and they won't do it. Because their videos, they're getting so many clicks. And everybody who trusts them, they're following who trust them, are taking this as more verification that there's some wild conspiracy theory where Patrick actually murdered the kids, and they're running with it. And this case is no longer, to them, about Lindsay Clancy's mental health and whether or not she was in a competent state of mind when she committed the murders of her children, which she has never denied. She has never said she doesn't remember it. She has never said that Patrick told her that's what she did, even though that's what people repeat in comment sections. They don't care about that. They don't care about Lindsay Clancy. They don't care about women's mental health. They just care about engagement farming and controversy and wanting to feel attached to something, especially when they can take it out. Some of these people have openly admitted they see their ex in Patrick Clancy. They call him a narcissist, somebody who was inflicting coercive control on her, all based on slop like this that people refuse. The people who put this out in the universe refuse to correct. And I'll show you right here. She even said, it's just shocking that even some of these creators I have privately messaged and said, you're posting the wrong review. She's tried, putting her face on these people's videos. She's tried commenting. She's tried messaging. Okay. She said, you're posting the wrong review. This is my review, and you're affecting another young man's business and fishing charter, because they're harassing the person whose business she reviewed as well. And they don't care because it's given them views and likes. The right information is important, and people have forgot that even if you think he has something to do with these horrific murders, you don't get, and then it cuts off there. But yeah, I don't think I can click on that. That's enough for me, though. And then you can see, all right, so you can see here, people commenting on her video aren't even paying attention. They're just spreading this slop. The person whose review it was is the person whose video this person is commenting on, and they're trying to tell the person who made this video, who is the person who left the review, what was happening in that Patrick's Costa Rica pictures had Rachel in the background, his now wife. It's absolutely ridiculous. Also, this person, when I asked them to prove it, nothing. So they make up stories that they heard from other content creator slop artists, and they, spread this bullshit where they're like, oh, there are pictures of them together in Costa Rica. There's not. Oh, there were reviews of them in the same place in Costa Rica. There's not. These people, their reviews, this stranger who has nothing to do with Patrick Clancy, their reviews were even 2 months apart. Idiots. Like, we have a serious crisis in this country as far as literacy and actually operating with integrity and caring to check yourself. Like, it is disgusting, but it's profitable. If you want to give your opinion on the facts of a case, I don't care how inflammatory it is or how much I disagree with it, I will stand up for your right to do that. Free speech, right? This is not free speech. This is defamatory, and especially when you refuse to correct yourself. It's ridiculous. So we're going to move on. And I know that based on how I've seen people react to creators who refuse to buy into this conspiracy theory, I know that I will lose followers, subscribers, whatever. I'm not going to do that. I'm not going to sit here and bag on a family who's been through a terrible tragedy just because it will get me a lot of likes. I can't do that. So we're going to talk about what matters here, which is what happened to Lindsay Clancy and what state she was in when she killed her kids. Because she did do it. She did confess to it. There is no indication that Patrick told her what she did. In fact, when she woke up in the hospital, she asked to talk to a lawyer. She was under lockdown. Kevin Reddington himself came out and said she was under heavy security. She could not see or talk to her family. And when he finally got a court order for their psychiatrist to see her, the psychiatrist finally let her have the phone, call Patrick, and explain to him what happened. Yet you have people all over saying she has false memories in that she's just saying what Patrick told her. There's an article in the New Yorker where Patrick Clancy goes over some of what happened afterwards, and I would recommend people read that to get that account. I would recommend reading Kevin Reddington's interviews, watching the arraignment, watching some of the stuff that happened before, because people are running rampant with absolute trash content and completely slandering someone. You know how I just went through this whole big case with Blake Lively claiming there was a smear campaign because people online didn't like her? No, this is a smear campaign. Those were opinions based on somebody's actions and court documents that have been entered into the record. Those were opinions. This is slander. This is defamation. It's wrong. So, all right. I seriously I would rather have low viewership and just like talk to people who care to listen about the important things than sensationalize someone else's tragedy where, 3 kids are dead. It's really sad that I even have to say that. So, all right, I'm going to pull up this testimony so we can start watching it. Okay, got it. So a few people who actually know Lindsay are a part of her family. The prosecution rested its case today, and the defense started calling their witnesses, and we're going to watch the defense's witnesses. There was a point where Kevin Reddington, after the prosecution rested its case, asked the court to reduce the charges to, I think it was second-degree murder. That request was denied. I think that, and I've seen this from lawyers commenting, and I'm not a lawyer, guys, remember? So I would say ask a lawyer if you see one, or look it up. Look up some lawyers who are talking about this case, but I think they can also raise that request when they rest their case. I'm not positive, though. Okay, I don't think that's a done deal. I think they can ask for it again. I will say I don't want to say that the prosecution can't make its case convincing. Their rebuttal is going to be important, but they're not doing a good job, and I think I'll talk to you guys about why while we watch this. And yeah, I'm trying to remember if there's anything else I wanted to tell you guys before we get started here, but I don't think so. So let's move this. I'm going to move my head way over here so you can see. So they're calling this first witness, I believe, is her coworker at the hospital. And these people are going to give some insight into her condition and how it kind of deteriorated or how she was acting over time. So let's, I'll read these real quick. Susan Ann said, thank you for the 30 joules. I appreciate that. SMP 813, thank you for the 10 joules. Awesome. And SMP 813, thank you again for the 600 joules. That's really cool. Suze Annie, thank you for the $10. Says, don't let this go. I won't. You guys know, I think if you've ever watched this channel, once I feel passionate about something, I won't let it go. So, I mean, like, I don't mean, like, I'm not going to sit here and do this all day. I'm not going to cover the trial live or anything, but, like, I feel the need to talk about it. And I also this is what I wanted to say right before we start here. I've seen the GoFundMe that was set up for Lindsay's parents. I've seen the way that different sides of social media have reacted to that. Some people feel very negatively about it. Some people feel very positively about it. I will say her parents lost their 3 grandchildren at the hands of their daughter, which is unimaginable. Their daughter is on trial, and she's very sick, as her mother will describe a little bit about her condition and just how things deteriorated. But I'm not going to rage out about a fundraiser for the parents because they are paying for her defense. Yes, but that's already, they've already been paying for that. They sold their house and they have been living apparently out of hotels and just doing the best that they can to get by during all this. And I think that I'm not going to complain about that. But it is just something I've seen being talked about a lot today. Now, do I necessarily agree with the worship? I don't. So I've seen accounts making AI videos of Lindsay in her wheelchair in front of the courthouse crying and then people coming to surround her. And I'm like, this is kind of a level of hero worship of a stranger that I don't approve of. Especially when she is still on trial. I think if you believe that she went through a health crisis, absolutely, that is totally reasonable to have empathy for that. But however, the worship, the idolizing is a little much when there's not a verdict. The prosecution is still putting on a case, and people say innocent until proven guilty. Yes, but that's still what that means, innocent until proven guilty. So some of these idolization accounts it's a lot. And I think that that's something that I would say don't go that far, because we want to keep an open mind here and let the prosecution make their case, however badly they're doing it, and then let the jury decide, because that's how our process works. So, all right. Hey, Rob, what's up? All right, I'm going to start here. And I'll pause periodically to comment. So.
Good afternoon. Please raise your right hand. Do you solemnly swear that the testimony and the evidence you shall give to the court amateur and they're now having between contact.
Skip up a little bit. Let's go.
Delivery nurse.
I started on our labor and delivery unit in 2012.
Okay, so about what, 24 years? No.
I started for the obstetrics department in 2006.
Okay, so 20 years you've been working for Mass General between obstetrics and labor and delivery, right?
Correct.
Do you know Lindsay?
I do.
How do you know her?
I was working on the labor floor when Lindsay first started with us.
So this would be the labor and delivery floor, and she started as a nurse, correct?
Correct.
You had already been working there?
Correct.
And she was about, what, 24 years old?
Roughly.
And came in as a young woman as a nurse, correct?
Correct.
Can you tell us, to your observation, let me ask you this, how many years did you work with her?
She started, I believe, in 2015, and I worked until 2002 when she went out with Callan.
About 7 years or thereabouts. Did you know that she had a child, Cora?
Yes.
And did you know that she had a child, Dawson?
Yes.
And ultimately that she had a child, a baby that was born very, very recently, Callan?
Mm-hmm.
In the years that you were working with her, were you able to observe, I mean, did she like being a nurse? Did she want to work, or was she a good nurse? What's your opinion?
Lindsay loved being a nurse. She was really good at being a nurse. She was compassionate. She was kind. She was a patient advocate. She was the type of nurse that you wanted taking care of you or your loved one when you walked onto our unit.
I want to say, like when I listen to all this stuff, I think about everyone involved, the kind of entire universe around these people, right? Because I worked, if you're new here, I am not a doctor, right? So I don't prescribe medications or anything like that. I worked in emergency services in the emergency room. So when the ER doctors had a patient under Baker Act or involuntary psych hold come in, I was the one to go evaluate them and help the doctors decide, do they need to be involuntarily held or do they go home with a safety plan? And so I have been, there when people come in after they try to harm themselves, when they're floridly psychotic. And I've had to talk to their families a lot. And I've had to talk to their boyfriend, girlfriend, whatever, a lot, or whoever was with them, coworkers, whatever, with permission, of course, because we have HIPAA rules. And I know that these types of things, they grip a lot more people than you can see. I think people just think about the patient sometimes, and it's, yeah, of course, it's the patient that gets the brunt of it, but this affects a lot more people than you realize, and it's a lot more taxing on a lot of people than you realize. I would say think of every patient you see who's been through a situation like this, and you got to think there's at least a dozen people out there who care about them, who have interacted with them day by day, who are thinking to themselves, holy shit, how did I miss this? What could I have done? How did I not see this coming? So this coworker of hers, I can't imagine how she felt. Maybe she'll tell us in a second here, but her patients who, as she describes, really loved, Lindsay as a nurse, and she was a labor and delivery nurse. I gotta imagine seeing that Lindsay killed her children has impacted them in a really tough way. I think this woman helped deliver your baby, and now you're seeing on TV that her mental health was neglected or declined rather so much that she got to a state where she killed her kids. That's got to be a total mindfuck. So I don't know. I just think there's a lot of people that have been rocked by this that we don't even think about sometimes. And I would ask you to, if you're watching this, keep that in mind and how that must weigh on the family as well. So I'll shut up now.
Did you observe, for example, that on occasion when she would be involved with the delivery of a baby that she would become emotional?
Lindsay was often emotional during birth of complete strangers. She would cry and she would just say that was so beautiful. You could just tell that she really loved being in that setting.
Over those years, right up until the time of Callan being born, fair to say that you stayed friendly with her?
Yes.
And you're still friendly with her.
Yes.
Can you tell us, did you observe during the time you worked with her how she emoted or felt about her children, all three of them?
Yes.
Tell us anything that you recall.
So Lindsay and I worked the night shift together. And often on the night shift, you get to have an opportunity to really get to know your coworkers and celebrate things that are happening in their lives or support them with things that are not going so well.
Man, the night shift is different, right? Especially in a healthcare setting. It's usually 12 hours. Sometimes we would work 16-hour shifts in the ER. I'm not as a nurse, but I just worked with the psych patients, right? So it's different. You do get to know people in a different way than you would during a busy daytime, because you got to stay awake, you got to stay on top of it, and you just, when you have a second of downtime, I don't know, you get to know people a lot, right? So this woman probably got to know her quite well, I would imagine.
Lindsay asked a lot of questions of her coworkers about parenting. Simple things as she would poll the nursing staff about monogrammed lunch boxes, right down to sleeping habits. What questions do you ask a daycare provider to make sure that you're in the right place? She was often asking her coworkers childcare, parenting tips.
When she had Callan, after Callan was born in the late spring of 22, did you see her after the birth of Callan?
I did not see her after the birth of Callan.
Were you aware that she had taken a leave of absence from Mass General?
Yes.
Did you stay in touch with her by phone or text?
I briefly kept in touch through text. After Callan was born, I reached out to her and I asked her for her address and how she was doing so I could send her a gift. And then a few months later, she circled back to me to thank me for the gift that I had sent her.
Do you recall an incident on one occasion where she was looking or monitoring one of the children and the child was crying and you observed what happened after that?
Yes.
Tell us about that.
Lindsay often checked in on her kids while they were sleeping at night. Again, we worked the night shift and she had the ability to look at her phone and see what Cora or Callan were doing in their cribs. And she shared that with a lot of us. There was one particular night that Cora was crying. She was probably about 6 months old. And Lindsay never let Cora cry. She wasn't at that point in parenting. And she was very...
So just to point out, if you guys don't remember, Cora is the oldest. So.
Very communicative about that. And Cora was crying on the monitor. It was the middle of the night. And maybe after 10 minutes, she started to call Pat and he wasn't answering. And she got really worried that Cora was crying, but now Pat wasn't answering his phone. So in the middle of the night, she called the police to do a wellness check on her family.
Okay.
So that... I'm not a mom, right? And so moms, they all do things differently and feel things differently. But this, to me, seems like a hypervigilance that would be a sign that there's a very high amount of stress here that might be unusually high. Calling a wellness check if you can't reach, the husband in the middle of the night, he's probably sleeping. It sounds like she was... I don't know. It just sounds like, and I can't diagnose anybody, right? But it sounds like she was somebody who panicked easily if she couldn't reassure herself that everything was going the way that it needed to go. I understand mothers, of course, parents being worried about their children, but it sounds like she very quickly reacted in a very big way. Calling 911 for a wellness check on your house, if it had been hours and hours and hours and the baby was crying on the monitor, I would understand, I think. But, I think this is kind of like a sign that things maybe weren't as okay as they thought. I remember reading the civil suit. They described that she had previously had think it was after the second child, an episode of what in hindsight they think might have been a manic episode, right? And they didn't really catch it because it kind of went away, and then she didn't follow up on it. She didn't take any meds or anything like that. She looked into it, but she didn't take the meds. And then after the third child is, of course, when all this happened. But I think that it sounds like there were some signs that weren't recognized very early on because they were a bit milder. And maybe you just think that that's an overprotective parent she's a new mom, and she just doesn't know she doesn't quite have a handle on her routine with the kids yet when she's working overnight. But that's a little much, I think, the 911 call. So you guys tell me what you think. So.
And while you were working the night shift, is that pretty much what you both worked together all those years?
Yes.
Would that be through the pandemic as well?
Yes.
Would you say that was quite a bonding experience, being in labor delivery up close and personal with patients during the pandemic at night?
Of course, it was a very challenging time as a healthcare provider.
Thank you very much. You can inquire.
All right, Como?
Good morning.
Good morning.
So the incident that you just told us about where Ms. Clancy was watching the monitor overnight, you were aware that the police responded and everything was fine, right?
Yes.
And you worked with her through 2022 when she went out with leave on Callan?
Correct.
And you never visited their house after Callan was born, did you?
No.
You don't know what was going on in her life, did you?
No.
And she didn't share any of her struggles with you via text or in any other capacity, did she?
No.
And as a labor and delivery nurse, and having been trained in labor and delivery, and you said you worked obstetrics before, correct?
Correct.
Is it fair to say that you often have patients that come to you in both those areas that have some mental illness or are on psychiatric medications, right?
Sometimes.
And working labor and delivery, you have some training on how to handle patients that are on certain types of medications, right?
Limited training, yes.
Well, it affects how you're going to go through a birth plan or do a delivery if a person is on some sort of long-term medication, right?
Right.
And so you're aware that Zoloft is something that's deemed safe for pregnant moms and breastfeeding moms?
Yes.
And you've had patients that have dealt with bipolar issues before?
Yes.
And that they have to remain medication compliant in order to manage those things, right?
Yes.
Thank you. Nothing further.
All right, Ms. Brayington?
So the prosecution with the Zoloft, right? Zoloft, when the SSRIs with people who have bipolar disorder, which is now in retrospect what they have, she's been diagnosed with that now. And then in retrospect, now you can kind of see some signs. Zoloft in a bipolar patient, an SSRI in a bipolar patient is going to have a very different effect than somebody who takes it for major depressive disorder. It's intended purpose, right? I take it. I'll just tell you the truth. I take it, and I've never had an issue like this. It's just kind of normal to me. I don't have any side effects or anything like that. It has helped me manage my kind of mental health issues. It's been consistent. I've kept going with it, and I don't have any problems. So I want to remind people when you're listening to this, like, this is anecdotal evidence to where, yes, there are horror stories for just about any medication you can find on the planet. When you are deciding if you want to take a psychiatric med, an antidepressant, an anti-anxiety medication, a benzodiazepine, you know what I mean? You have to decide what you want to do with your body based on what you hear from your doctor, the questions you ask your doctor, and what I would say research in your free time. I know you don't read everything or don't take everything you see online at face value, but follow up on that. Do your research before you decide you want to take a medication, and then give it a try if you want to. And if you don't, then there are other things you could try. So I would say I don't want people to be scared of ever taking medication because it changed my life in a very positive way. And I appreciate that. And I think that you don't really hear from people who are doing well on their medications because there's no reason for them to make an announcement. You know what I mean? So you're going to hear a lot of horror stories. I would say make an informed decision about what you want to put in your body. Okay. Don't just listen to people's anecdotes, right? But talk to multiple people, maybe. Talk to multiple people. Read up about it online. Look for hospital sources, educational sources, not just like Reddit posts and stuff like that. But then also, I know people will tell you not to do this, but I actually think it's helpful to read some of the anecdotal evidence you see online, because then you can kind of compare and contrast with what you've seen. If you have any questions about that, if you see I read this post online from somebody who had a horrible reaction, you can go back and ask the doctor about that. And you can do all of that before you ever decide to take a pill. So you don't have to rush into medication. I'll say that. Some people do have horror stories, yes. But most of the people that don't, you won't hear from them because they don't need to talk about it. So, all right, we'll keep moving here.
Your experience dealing with patients that have birthed a child, as the district attorney asked, and are on Zoloft and expressing issues of being a parent. Were you aware of any incidents where Lindsay was with you and a woman did in fact express concern that she wanted to hurt herself or her child?
There was a particular patient that Lindsay was on staff when this patient arrived. It was a patient that arrived to the unit that had plans to harm herself while she was pregnant. And we had a conversation. Lindsay was brand new. It was the summer that she had just started. And we had a conversation about mental health in pregnancy and postpartum. And I asked her if she had ever heard of the Andrea Yates case, and she hadn't. And I explained that to her, and she cried. And she said, "How could a mother hurt her children?"
Thank you.
So that's a kind of a strong emotional reaction to having something at work. It is a horrible, horrible circumstance. And to look back on that memory now, I'm sure is very tragic for this person that just testified, as well as Lindsay and whoever else just had to listen to this, who has insight into her life and wishes they could have done something. I think that is I'm seeing, from what I'm hearing, right, some overreactions, some very emotional, heightened emotional reactions. And I want to be careful not to make you think that I'm saying she definitely had a diagnosis at this time, right? But it does sound like she had some very intense emotional reactions to things, and that's just from a very short line of questioning with one person who was her coworker. Like we don't know who she was closest to in her life during that time, years and years ago. They're not up here talking right now. Remember, the only information you're going to get, the only insight you're going to get into these people's lives, their symptoms and what's going on, is the questions they are asked by attorneys who are trying to paint a specific picture. So when I see people lashing out online against the people testifying against Lindsay, Patrick, Lindsay's mother, I try to remind people, you are looking at a snapshot of the worst days of these people's lives. That's it. You're getting a snapshot that's painting a picture of the worst time in these people's lives. These people have, Lindsay and Patrick, they were together for a long time before this happened. We have no idea what their day-to-day life was as a couple. We don't know what they did for each other. We don't know what their life was like when they were at home together. We don't know how much he, did for her or how much she did for him. Think about all the little things you do with your partner or your family, or the kinds of things you do. You going out on Sundays to brunch or stuff like that. And we don't know any of that because nobody's asking them about that. Nobody's asking them to describe the grander picture of Lindsay Clancy and Patrick Clancy and their children. And I see people lashing out at the family a lot, especially Patrick, for being negligent. And I would urge some caution with that, because saying that he's negligent based on a short clip of him when they were in that outing where he was actually holding a place in line for his son. That's why he was separated from the rest of the family, and launching into, oh my God, look how removed he is. Look how detached Patrick is. When if you actually pay attention and you don't just watch the clip that people show you on the internet, you realize he was waiting in line so his son could get into the next exhibit. There's just so much that goes on between people when we watch these kind of true crime situations or trials that you will never know. So really think about what you're saying if you decide to call somebody negligent or abusive. I have seen many people suggest that Patrick was abusive, and that is sick. You have no idea. There is no sign of that other than women on TikTok who say they see their ex in Patrick Clancy, and they're not seeing things clear. So don't judge these people too harshly based on this snapshot in time that you're seeing years later. We have no idea who they are. We do not know them. So I would just say consider that before you have a strong reaction to that or hate somebody. You know what I mean? All right.
All set.
Thank you.
Come off.
No.
All right, let me sit down, thank you. Counsel.
Yes, Your Honor. Ms. Orzica, please. Orzica, O-R-Z-G-A.
Speak into that microphone, keep your voice up, okay?
Okay.
Great, thank you.
This is Lindsay's sister.
Good afternoon. Tell us your name, please, and spell it.
Sorry, if you couldn't see me over the, or hear me over the volume. This is Lindsay's sister, and she's about to testify here.
It's Allison Ozga, Allison. Last name is Ozga.
You know Lindsay?
I do.
How do you know her?
Lindsay's my sister.
And can you tell us, are you close to Lindsay? Do you live near each other? Do you socialize? What type of relationship have you had with her?
We're very close. We have not lived in the same state for about 10 years now, but we do communicate, and I do think we're very close.
And do you text with her on a regular basis?
Yes,
And you talk on the phone, do you?
occasionally.
Directing your attention to the fall of, well, actually heading into like Thanksgiving and Christmas of 2022. Do you remember that time frame?
Yes,
And did you have occasion to see your sister during that period of time?
yes.
And let's direct our attention to, let's say, Thanksgiving 2022. Had you noticed any change in Lindsay's personality or any observation of how she appeared to you?
I will say on Thanksgiving in particular is when the first time I saw her in person after quite some time. I had known she had not been doing well via text message communication that we had. I think on Thanksgiving, she, her mood did not look good, her energy, she didn't seem very energized. It definitely seemed off from how I've seen her in the past.
And were you aware that that carried through from November into December around the holiday season if you had stayed in touch with her?
Yes.
And can you tell us what you observed about her around the holiday season as it related to her, from your observations and your texting and your communications with Lindsay? How did she appear to you at that point?
The beginning of December, it seemed like she very much decompensated. I do remember her saying at one point at the beginning of December, something along the lines of, I'm in a really tough spot. And knowing what she had shared with me previously about how her mental health had been struggling, I had this gut feeling that something was off and that she was really struggling. And I asked her if she was safe.
What did she say?
She said yes at that point.
And you knew.
So I will say that, as family members, even if you have a degree in some kind of mental health care, social work, whatever, you're never supposed to diagnose or really treat or assess your family member. Like, you're not supposed to diagnose or treat or assess yourself. So keep that in mind as we're listening to this. You know, you might question that and be like, you were a social worker, or, you know, whatever, you knew this or you knew that. But even doctors can't diagnose their own family members. They can't treat their own family members, that kind of thing. So, you know, these lay people who are not doctors, I would give them a little bit more grace. It's very, very easy when you haven't been in this situation to say, you know, they should have done better, or this or that, or how could you not? That's negligent. That's awful. It's more complicated than that. Much more complicated than that. You have a different attachment to your family than you do to a patient you would be treating, for example. So you see things differently, and you never imagine the worst possible outcome, probably with the people you love the most in the world who have never done anything to hurt anybody. So just keep that in mind.
Her husband, Pat,
Yes.
and you knew the kids,
Yes.
obviously. Do you recall around Christmas itself, and perhaps a little bit thereafter, that you spoke with her and that she indicated, basically, I'm not doing okay?
Yes.
Can you tell the jury what you observed about her demeanor or her symptomology when you said she was decompensating around that time? What were they symptoms in your mind of?
Based on communication with Lindsay, and I started communicating with Pat directly at that time, she
Sorry, I was muted. I said I wanted to talk about this here. This person's been in my chat before. I've seen them before. I've never had a problem with them, but it says Patrick had 8 minutes of opportunity after the 911 call, not before, but after. They have to prove he didn't use that opportunity before they can prove Lindsay used her opportunity before the 911 call. No, they do not. They do not. Patrick is not on trial, first of all. Second, there were 2 minutes between Patrick getting home and finding Lindsay and making that 911 call, and he was on the phone with the dispatcher until the paramedics arrived. After the paramedics arrived, he then went down to the basement where the kids were. I don't know what you're talking about. I don't know what comment section you're reading, but it's not true. And I need you to stop spreading that here because it's not welcome. So please stop.
She was reporting her mood was worsening, as she described as depression. She was having more suicidal thoughts. Insomnia continued to be an issue. She was really not feeling like herself.
And did you know that during that period of time where she was telling you about the suicidal thoughts and the issue of depression, that she was seeing doctors?
Yes.
And what did she tell you about seeing the doctors, and if she was on any medication, and if so, what effect did they have on her?
So the first thing she said about the doctors was back in October when she said that she saw a doctor for Zoloft and had a very awful reaction to that Zoloft.
Would that be Dr. Tufts?
I don't believe she shared that specific with me.
Share the name? Okay.
No. And then I think throughout our communication over the couple months of October to December, she did share with me that she was going to doctors, she was getting different prescriptions, kind of all the things that they were trying and different treatments they were looking at.
And do you recall when you were talking with her about her symptoms towards the end of December that she had, in your words, decompensated significantly and stated to you that she felt nothing and that she was scared, things of that nature?
Yes.
What else did she tell you, if you recall?
At the end of December, so I think it was more along the same of, that she is really not feeling well. Her mood is down. She's feeling numb. She's feeling hopeless. I believe at the very end of the month, she told me she had had suicidal ideation every day for a month. Do you recall towards the end?
So when somebody says they're having suicidal ideation every day for a month, let's talk about this because a lot of people think that if you have suicidal ideation, you're automatically supposed to be hospitalized. And that's not realistic. I would say most patients, when you come into the ER here, I worked in downtown in a very crowded area where all the patients that got brought in by the police under hold would come. Suicidal ideations are not an automatic trigger for hospitalization, especially if it's a recurring patient who has expressed constant suicidal ideations before. So when somebody is hospitalized on our units, it's because they're at a decompensated state or they are at an elevated level of distress than usual. They're not They're not at their normal self. And when somebody's really sick like this and they have constant suicidal thoughts like for a month, because if you're having them every day for a month, it's a constant state, then having a suicidal thought doesn't necessarily represent a change in your baseline status. So the thing then would be to constantly go to therapy, constantly have your meds managed, and to keep up with your treatment, to learn how to manage these symptoms. And then eventually when you get your healthy coping mechanisms and you go to therapy on a consistent basis, you're able to kind of suppress that, right? It's like, you can't just snap your fingers and make it go away. But if you keep up with your treatment over a prolonged period of time, then it gets better. But the thing is, a lot of patients who have this problem don't want to keep up with prolonged treatment. It's taxing when you feel super depressed or you feel not like yourself. You don't want to go to therapy once or twice a week. It's like, I don't want to go talk about this stuff. And so it's very easy for people to fall through the cracks there. And so all of a sudden you're seeing somebody come back to the hospital or come back to your office again and again and again, saying they're having suicidal thoughts. And at some point it's like, okay, well, we've been here for a long time now. You don't want to strip somebody of their rights and lock them away against their will every single time they express that thought, because you want to teach them how to work through it and how to get better. So that is kind of, I think, what was an issue for the family when she was saying she was having suicidal thoughts, or when she was saying she was having thoughts of harming the children. And I will bring this back to Patrick's testimony, that, you know, she had these thoughts that she described as intrusive thoughts. And she said, I've been thinking about harming the kids. And later, when, you know, the attorney questioned further, he said, you know, I asked her the questions the doctors told me to ask her, you know, like, are they disturbing to you? And then it came out that it was more like thoughts of harm occurring to the kids than it was her hurting the kids. And so that, for a family member who is not trained at a trained psychiatrist or whatever, that's confusing, you know? So I understand why these people didn't feel like they needed to jump to get her to the hospital, or felt like it was, you know, 100% you can't leave her alone with the children for 30 minutes to an hour or she'll kill them. Like I understand, given the instructions these doctors were probably giving them when she was having these constant thoughts, and what to look for, and what is a state that would cause her to be hospitalized, especially when she was turned away right before because her thoughts weren't bad enough. I understand why the family didn't think she would do what she did. And I think the problem is we can't help everybody who's ever experiencing these thoughts and feelings. And people at some point, they're like, I don't want to keep going to the ER. I don't want to keep going to the doctor or whatever. And then you don't know what to do at that point. So, but nobody ever expects the person they love and trust most in the world to go through or act on these thoughts. Lindsay, to our knowledge, has never acted on the thoughts she was having before. So it's just, I don't blame the family for not seeing that would happen. I know a lot of people have the feelings that they were neglectful. I disagree. I think that they did what they were taught to do by the doctors who are trained in a system that is inadequate overall. And I think that it failed everybody. So, all right, we'll keep going here. But I just want to say, the sister hearing that she had a suicidal thoughts every day for a month and not like bringing her to the hospital immediately, that's not neglectful. It's not bad. Especially if she is a social worker and knows about these things. So.
The end of the month around New Year's that she voluntarily admitted herself somewhere.
Yes.
You know where she admitted herself?
McLean Hospital.
And while she was at McLean Hospital, ultimately, do you know how she got out of McLean Hospital?
It was my understanding that she was weaning off.
Okay, let's say this is the last time I'm going to do this. So can we agree it's a fact that EMS testified they were on the scene for 7.5 minutes before they scooped and ran? Can we agree that LC was mid-treatment in the ambu when PC first screamed? Who fucking cares? He went to check on the kids. They were still with Lindsay. If they put her in the ambulance because they obviously needed to take her to the hospital and then heard him scream because he discovered his children dead, what is the problem? I'm not doing this anymore. This weird crap is disrespectful to the family. It's disrespectful to everyone involved. and I'm done with it. So please leave.
Of some medication that she was on, and then was eventually discharged 5 days later.
Now, did you see her or talk to her after she left McLean Hospital trying to wean herself off of whatever medication it was? Because you don't know what the medication is, right?
I believe it was Seroquel.
Seroquel.
Yep.
Did she tell you anything to the effect that when she got out of the hospital that she felt as though this was a step in the right direction? Did she seem as though she was trying to be positive about her life?
Yes.
And tell us about that. Because up until this point, you had observed her decompensating and having these symptoms and suicidal ideation and depression and feeling nothing and scary. When she got out of McLean, what did she appear to you and what did she say to you?
I believe she said she felt that was a good plan and that she was starting to feel better.
So was your sister, in your opinion, granted she's your sister and you're biased, obviously, but was she a complainer?
No.
And obviously.
Sorry, Michelle, one of the mods says I wasn't sure if this person should have been banned. Yeah, I just went ahead and sent him to the ban basement. Anybody who's spreading conspiracy slop, please ban them, mods. I'm done. We're not doing that here. So we're going to move on now, but none of that. I will not have any of that here because it's disrespectful to the victims. It's disrespectful to the families, and I'm done with it. So thank you for looking out, though.
Obviously, she didn't share with you in detail her doctors and medicines and things of that nature. Is that fair?
No.
But you were aware of the struggles and the hurt that she was going through.
Yes.
And then through the month of January, did you have occasion to see her, or were you? Because you still live in different states.
Yes. Yes, I did have an occasion to see her in January.
When?
We went to Cora's birthday party.
And that was at the trampoline park?
Yes.
How did she appear at that?
I think she looked like she was going through the motions of putting together a birthday party for her daughter. But she looked tired. She looked like she was still struggling.
So there was a difference in your observation of what you had known your sister to have as a personality.
Yes.
And then, of course, the horrible day, were you aware, or did somebody call you and tell you that the children had been killed?
Yes.
One of them still survived and ultimately passed.
Yes.
And do you recall who told you that?
Yes.
Who was that?
My mother.
And as a result of getting the call from your mother, what did you do?
I jumped in the car, packed a bag, and I sped up to South Shore Hospital, which is where I was told she was.
Did you see her in South Shore Hospital?
No.
So she didn't see her in the hospital, right? And I just want to emphasize something I said earlier. People have said that she only confessed after Patrick or somebody else told her what she did. That's not true. Her attorney, Kevin Reddington, when speaking about this case, said that her hospital room was on lockdown. She was not able to see or speak to her family. And she couldn't until several days after call Patrick and explain what happened. So she has never claimed not to remember what happened. She does remember what happened. Believe her. That's why we're here. So I know that people want to run with this conspiracy. Oh, maybe she didn't do it because she has a false memory or she falsely confessed. No, because nobody put that idea in her head. She knew what she did. She always has. And it's very sad.
Did you know that she was then transferred to another hospital after South Shore?
Yes.
And what hospital was that?
I believe it was Brigham and Women's.
And were you able to visit her in Brigham and Women's?
Yes.
And did it take some time before they would allow you to visit with her?
Yes.
How long, if you know?
7 days or something, I think.
I think it was approximately 2 weeks.
Well, 2 weeks.
And then you were able to see her pretty.
That's what I'm saying, though. They didn't let her have visitors. They didn't even want to let her have phone calls. But the psychiatrist that Kevin Reddington got a court order for gave her the phone so she could call Patrick. And Kevin Reddington has said that himself.
Pretty much on a regular basis.
Yes.
And where does your mother and father live?
In Connecticut.
And are you close to them?
Yes.
Can you tell the jury from the time of this incident in January 24th of 2023 up until now, 2026, where has your mother and father been living?
My parents have been spending the majority of their time up here in Massachusetts
Why?
so that they could visit Lindsay as much as possible.
Almost on a daily basis?
Yes.
Was that on a bed and breakfast or a bed and bath, or was it a hotel, or where were they staying?
They've been living out of hotels.
Thank you, that's all. You can inquire.
Como.
So that goes back to the fundraiser I was telling you guys about before we started watching the testimony. This fundraiser, I know that people are, you'll see some really intense Twitter accounts and all that saying, oh my God, women are raising $1 million for a baby killer. But the truth is, the fundraiser, while I'm not going to contribute to any fundraiser, especially while there's not a verdict, any fundraiser, but the truth is, her parents have been through a lot. They have been living through hotels. They've been trying to support her through this while also coping with the fact that she killed their grandchildren. It's terrible. So am I going to freak out because people are raising money to help the grandparents who lost their grandkids and their daughter in one fell swoop? No. I'm not going to freak out about that. That's, if you don't want to donate, don't donate. But it's not like this sensationalism you see in the media about how women raising money for baby killer. That's not what's going on here. They paid her legal fees, yes, but the fundraiser, they don't even have a house. They don't have a house right now. They relocated to be there for her and to attend her court hearings. I'm not going to freak out about that. I think that people need to chill a little bit. I know that yes, you have your right to be outraged and to express whatever you want to express. And personally, like I said, there's no verdict here. The prosecution still has a chance to prove their case. So I wouldn't personally be benefiting, like donating to a fundraiser, but there's nothing inherently wrong with that. And you can just not donate. It's like, how is that changing your life? If these parents who have been living out of hotels because they're going through something unimaginable are getting, donations from somebody who set up a fund for them that they did not ask for, because people were trying to be charitable. I just don't get it. There's so much hate and rage around this case towards the parents, towards Lindsay, towards Patrick, everybody. And it's disgusting. All right, we'll keep going.
Thank you. Good afternoon. Now, when Lindsay was at McLean Hospital and she was discharged, did she tell you that she asked to be discharged early to go to Cora's birthday party?
I can't recall.
And do you recall speaking to the police on January 25th, just a day after this all happened back in 2023?
Yes.
And do you recall telling them that you saw Lindsay 2 weeks prior to the 24th, roughly around the birthday party time, and that she seemed okay?
Yes.
Do you recall telling the police that you spoke to her in phone calls many times after she was discharged to McLean, and that her tone of voice in those calls seemed better?
I did not speak to her on the phone. Most of our communication was via text.
So you don't recall saying that to the police, that the tone of Lindsay's voice in our phone conversations was better the last couple weeks since she had been released from the hospital?
I believe when I said that, I meant her tone via her text messages.
And so her tone in her text messages was better?
A bit.
And I think most of us know, you can kind of tell that somebody's coming across differently in their messages to you. Like, so I'm somebody who doesn't really pick up on things right away. So like sometimes I have a trouble conveying tone, but usually you can tell when somebody is being a little more shorthanded or they seem a little off versus when they're communicating with you normally. So that here, like some of these questions the prosecutor asks that I think they're trying to get a gotcha, I'm just kind of like, you guys are so like, you're focusing on the wrong things. I think the prosecutor could make a case still. I think especially on, I don't know, what is it, rebuttal. But the thing is, I think they're focusing and harping on all the wrong things. Like the other day, last week, right, they tried to pull a gotcha on Patrick. On the stand, they pulled up this picture and they said, is this not you guys out on, and it was like the day after their anniversary or something, because he told them they decided not to go out on their anniversary because Lindsay wasn't feeling well. So they showed this picture to him. And he's like, no, that is not from the date you asked me about. Because the thing is, she posted the photo of them that day, their anniversary. but the photo was from an event that happened months prior. So the prosecutor just totally fumbled the ball. Just looked like an idiot. But you know what? People didn't even get that because people ran with this narrative that the prosecutor had a photo of Patrick and his mistress. You didn't even see the photo. Instead of paying attention to the conversation, people said, it must have been another woman in the photo. No, the photo was from months earlier. It is normal for couples to post photos of themselves on their anniversaries from previous times. Like, that's not weird. And then people ran with this stupid narrative that, oh my God, Patrick didn't want to say yes because he thought his mistress would find out that they actually went out that day. No, that didn't happen. There was no mistress. They stayed in because Lindsay was very sick. She didn't feel well. She obviously wasn't doing well. That's why I can't stand about this stupid online discourse that hundreds of thousands and millions of people are paying attention to. I'm just like, people are lying to you. And they're not paying attention to what's really going on. So the prosecutor is trying to prove that she was doing well, that she was out for her anniversary, living it up. And that's why they showed him the photo. And then when he said no, that crumbled their point. Because it was like she was so sick, they had to stay home. So now all of a sudden it's ruining their narrative that she willfully murdered her children and is supporting the narrative that she was sick and decompensating and couldn't control herself. That's the story. And yet social media and the internet ran with a stupid scandal about a mistress that never happened. It's sad to see how this is playing out. So.
And do you recall telling police that you spoke to Lindsay on Thursday, January 19th, 2023, and she seemed okay?
Yes,
And that was a phone call, correct?
that was text message.
Text message, okay.
Yes.
So when you were saying spoke to the police, you were referring to text messages?
Correct.
And so in that text message, she seemed fine?
She seemed okay.
So she had just been released from McLean Hospital at the beginning of January, and all of your communications after the birthday party were text messages, is that correct?
I think the date's wrong.
I believe so, yes.
And just so we make sure we have the date correct, after she was discharged from McLean in January of 2023, up until January 24th, 2023, all of your communications were via text.
Yes.
Did you visit her at her home that month?
No.
You didn't reach out or call her at all, correct?
I reached out and called, yes. I did not visit her at her home, no.
When you called, did she respond? Did she answer the phone?
I'm sorry, let me backtrack. I can't recall whether I made a phone call. I can recall the majority of our communication between January 1st and January 24th was via text message.
Okay, so there could have been some phone calls.
I cannot recall any phone calls.
You are a licensed social worker, correct?
Correct.
And you're a mandated reporter, correct?
Yes.
And at any point in time between January 1st, 2023 and January 24th, 2023, did you have enough concern about the safety of the kids or the safety of your sister to file a report as a mandated reporter?
No.
Thank you.
Mr. Ray?
All I have, Judge, thank you.
Okay, thank you. Let me step down.
And I've seen people attacking the sister today about how she was a mandated reporter and all that, but like, they don't even bother to try to understand the circumstances and also try to understand the nuances of this is your family member. You're not going to see things clearly. Unless somebody explicitly says to you, I'm going to do it right now. It's a little more difficult. Especially as a social worker, you would know that not everything warrants emergent intervention if you are a person who has these issues at baseline. So it's hard to see people, like I said, just like trashing everybody, trashing this family, saying they were negligent. And I know that they want to show support for Lindsay, who is sick and has had postpartum issues that they relate to. However, that's not the answer. Trashing the people who were trying to help her is not the answer. So. Okay, I'm going to go to 346. Her mother's about to come up. There we go. The mom's going to give a lot of insight here.
Good afternoon.
Okay, I'm going to remind everybody else, just speak into the microphone if you could keep your voice up, please.
Okay.
Thank you.
Afternoon. Tell us your name and spell your name, please.
My name is Paula Musgrove, Paulamusgrove.
And Mrs. Musgrove, fair to say that you are Lindsay's mother,
Yes, I am Lindsay's mother.
and your husband is here as well in the blue shirt, correct?
Yes,
You've been here for every day for the trial, is that correct?
yes.
I just have a few questions for you. Obviously, you tell us about Lindsay when she was a kid. Was she a good kid, good student, that type of thing?
She was a very good kid and an excellent student, very excellent student all through school, through high school, college. Yes, excellent.
Ever been in trouble, law enforcement or schools or discipline or anything?
No,
Were you aware of her husband, Pat?
Okay, the problem with doing a solo stream is I do have to go to the bathroom. I'm going to leave it playing for you guys, and I'll talk to you about it when I get back up here, but I'm just going to take a little bathroom break. I'll be right back in like 2-3 minutes. I'll let it roll, though.
yes,
And obviously, you knew when they got married and when they were dating and things of that
Yes.
nature, right? Went to the wedding, obviously.
yes,
Fair to say that you were close to your daughter and Pat,
yes,
and you knew, obviously, the grandchildren.
yes.
Tell the jury how you interacted and felt about your grandchildren.
I loved my grandchildren with all my heart. And you never know what it's like to love a grandchild until you become a grandmother. And it was the most beautiful thing. I love them with all my heart.
Now, did you have occasion to see how Lindsay reacted and treated her kids as a mother?
Yes.
And granted that you're her mother, so you're obviously biased. Tell the jury what observations you made of Lindsay as a mother through the years after Cora was born, and then Dawson, and then, of course, baby Calvin.
Lindsay was a very loving mother. She was dedicated to her children. She was a fun mother. She was always doing things for her kids. She always wanted to be a mother, have many children, and I felt it was the best thing that ever happened to her. And she would do anything for her children. She was just a loving mother.
Now, in 2022, Calvin was born. Is that correct?
Yes.
Did you stay in touch with Lindsay and Pat during that period of time, the spring into the summer of 2022?
Yes.
And how often would you see them or talk to them, or what would you do? You go to cookouts, or would you have parties, or how would you socialize?
Myself and my husband would travel from Connecticut to Duxbury at least 2 or 3 times a month, as well as them coming to Connecticut to visit us.
And would you agree that in the summer, for example, of 2022, that Lindsay and Pat were active with the kids and were pretty happy?
Very happy, yes.
Did you observe in the summer of 22 any changes at that point in her personality and the way she was acting with her friends in society?
In the summer, no.
And they were having a fairly good summer.
Yes.
Did you notice at some point a change in Lindsay's demeanor?
Yes.
Tell the jury when that was.
It was sometime probably around the 2nd week of October.
What happened that you noticed?
I noticed that she had become very anxious. She told me she was anxious about going back to work because Callan was having trouble taking a bottle and she didn't feel right about leaving him.
And as a result of that, did she tell you that she was going to put off going back to work?
Yes, she told me she was applying for an extension.
Now, did you know at that point that she was going through any issues involving depression or anxiety or having any suicidal ideation or anything like that?
At that point, no.
At what point, if any, did you become aware that your daughter was suffering from this symptomology?
In late October.
And how did that come about?
She sent me a text message.
And do you recall when that was?
Yes, that was on October 20th.
Now, Your Honor, the government has introduced into evidence the entire of the phone dumps, if you will, and I think they put it on a disc, and it's probably thousands of pages, but I do have the text thread that deals with that time frame in October. I'd like to offer that so that it's apparent what I'm referring to rather than having to search through thousands of pages of a disc.
So for a second here, I just want to point out, you can see that she was visibly emotional. You could hear it in her voice that she was heartbroken and upset. She's keeping it together. She's giving her testimony. She's doing what she's supposed to do because she has to. And I find it so shitty that people judge the people on the stand right now based on whether or not they cry enough for spectators. People who have no idea who these people are. They have no idea what they've been doing with their lives in the last 3 years. I mean, God, I would imagine it would take a lot of work and recovering from grief to be able to compose yourself and have this conversation. And that takes a considerable amount of strength after a horrible period of trauma. She doesn't have to sit up here and sob for the entertainment of TikTokers for it to be believable that she was and is in a tremendous amount of pain. The way these people have been judged is sick. The way Patrick was judged is sick. People take short clips of the way he was on the stand. They called him a narcissist, a sociopath. You could see how uncomfortable he was. He looked like he was staring a hole in the wall, trying not to look at his ex-wife and break down. You could hear how his heart rate was increasing. He was breathing heavier, and people complained about his breathing and said, oh yeah, he's creepy and nasty. I'm like, you guys are fucked up. Our society is so disgusting, the way that we've been judging these people. It's nasty. It is so nasty. Like, I don't care how you feel about somebody not crying enough for you when they are describing their life and what happened to them in the worst times of their lives. And then you have people stalking Patrick saying, oh my God, he went on a hiking trip 3 weeks after the kid's funeral and he left a review of the hiking trail. He's a sociopath. That is disgusting. This case and the way people are treating this family has changed my whole outlook on content and what I want to be doing with it. Because I don't ever want to be a part of this kind of a problem where people are viciously ripped apart and have their reputations ruined over things that are completely untrue because uneducated fucks on TikTok think everyone's a narcissist. Do you know how many people have narcissistic personality disorder? It's very rare. Everybody thinks their ex is a narcissist. They think the person you're watching on TV who doesn't do what you want them to do is a narcissist because you see your ex in them. The way they keep saying they see their ex in Patrick Clancy, it's insane. So when we're watching these people on the stand, it doesn't matter if they cry for you or not. They cried for their grandchildren. I can promise you that. Jesus. They don't have to cry for you in your TikTok reels. No objection.
Okay. They may be admitted.
So approaching, let me add this thing.
276.
Now, the text message that you're referring to, would that be on October 20th of 2022?
Yes,
And do you have that on your phone right now?
I do.
Can you just pull that up for us?
I can. Just give me a moment. Okay, I have it.
Kelsey, do you have a copy maybe that she could look at?
Oh, I have a copy.
Yeah, that might be easier for the witness.
So I'm going to approach you with this board and ask if this is a copy of the text that you're referring to.
Yes, it is.
Would you read that for the jury.
Mom, will you please come up and stay with me for a bit? I'm really sick. Something is wrong. I had horrible insomnia all night, and I just don't know how I'm going to get through the day. I started taking the medicine my doctor prescribed for anxiety, and I think it's made things worse. It's just really scary, and I don't want to be alone.
You want to write off this?
Objection. It's already in evidence.
What do we mark it for identification? Is that text within the,
I'd rather have
first?
it in the board.
Well, I know you would, but we already have the,
They want a little training. Can I just talk to the board like?
no, we're going to mark that for identification. The text that is been referred and read to is within Exhibit 276, which was just off.
I'm sorry, which is what?
I think it was within Exhibit 276, which was within that thread that you just offered.
Okay, so I will then, that would be 276, so that will be over here. As a result of receiving that text, did you then come up to?
Hold on a second.
Exhibit W for identification.
Yeah, okay.
Oh, thank you.
All right, thank you.
So as a result of that, did you come up to Duxbury?
Yes, same day.
And tell us about that. What happened that day at the end of October?
Lindsay had been, I believe she went to the emergency room that day and she had come home. She was feeling a bit better. She told me that she couldn't sleep. She was very anxious and she was afraid.
And how long did you stay with her?
At that point,
Yes.
I believe at that point I stayed for about a week.
And was your husband with you?
He came later. He didn't come directly with me then because he was still working. So he came later.
I never asked. What did you do for work?
I worked for Weight Watchers.
And you're retired?
Yes.
How about your husband? Is he working now?
He recently retired.
And what was the nature of his work?
He was in photography,
What kind of photography?
school picture photography.
For yearbooks and things like that?
Yeah, and school pictures, and you had your kids' pictures taken.
And he just recently,
Dude, this is just like a nice, normal family that awful things happen to, and people demonize the shit out of them. I'm like, stop. Stop. Like, you can, like, look at what's going on, listen to what they're saying, and I guess kind of try to consider what might have been going on in the mind of these people and how they must be feeling. But, like, don't say they're terrible people based on what you have experienced with your family, based on what you have experienced with your husband or your children or you as a mother. Like, that's it's not right. But like, just listening to them describe their life, this is just like a nice normal family, and they were doing everything they could, you know.
retired.
Yes.
Is it fair to say that during the month of October into November, into the holidays in December, that you and your husband would stay with Lindsay and the kids?
Yes. I stayed more than my husband because he needed to go back home to work.
Sure. While you were staying with Lindsay, can you tell us your opinion as to her condition? Was it decompensating? Was she getting better as time went on through November and December into the holidays?
Through November into December, it was not getting better into the holidays.
And you knew she was on medication at that point?
Yes.
You knew she was seeing doctors at that point?
Yes.
So tell us, is there an incident that came to your mind that you recall that occurred on one evening that indicated to you how seriously she was suffering?
There were many. One particular evening that was disturbing to me was that, I mean, she was afraid to be alone, and she actually asked if she could sleep with me.
When was that?
That was late November, early December.
And did she indeed sleep with you on that occasion?
She did.
Continuing on through the holidays, did you guys get together for the holidays, Christmas or Thanksgiving, if you recall?
Yes. I was down there probably most of December.
And I want to point out also I've seen a lot of comments today about why it wasn't her husband there, or why why did the mom have to sleep with her or whatever. But the thing is, at some point, he started working from home to help her out. But he, to my knowledge, from what I've seen, was working nights. So that would have been an issue. And then also, he wasn't always working from home, right? And the reason he had to take business trips from New York is because the company he worked for was based out of New York. And I saw people say like, oh, he flew out there to see the mistress because his now wife lives in Manhattan, where they met after he moved there after all this happened. He went there to visit the mistress. Who goes on a work trip when your wife is feeling this, blah, blah, blah. Well, maybe a couple who is, going to have to pay a lot of medical bills because the wife is struggling and she couldn't go back to work. And so now they have a one income household. Maybe that person might have to go on a work trip. Yeah. To their company headquarters in Manhattan. So that's not proof of an affair. Again, there's been so many distractions in this case about like, this got to be Patrick's fault or whatever. It's got to be a whodunit. It's not. When he couldn't be with her because he had to work, and people say he was negligent. He had to work for the family. She had, her mom there. And even then it was still a struggle because sometimes you can do everything right. And sometimes you can do everything in your power. And it still doesn't end well. And I've seen that a lot, unfortunately. So, all right.
Through Christmas Eve, and then I left on Christmas Eve to come home to see my other daughter and her family. And then Lindsay actually came to my house later the day on Christmas Day.
Was she with Pat?
Yes.
Okay, and the kids?
Yes.
During that period of time, did you make further observation as time went into January? Oh, back it up. At some point, she voluntarily went into McLean Hospital?
Yes.
You knew that?
Yes.
How did you know that?
I was there.
What do you mean you were there?
I was at Lindsay's house staying with them.
You take care of the kids?
Yes.
And it's fair to say that Pat's parents, mom and dad, also stepped up, taking care of the kids, helping out during this period of time?
They were there, I guess, when we weren't there. I didn't really see them, but.
I accidentally had myself muted. Sorry. This is another thing I want to point out. And I've seen this going around, this sentiment going around a lot, which is Lindsay Clancy had significantly more help than most postpartum mothers do. She had, her parents, his parents. She had a husband who was working from home, and she got to be a stay-at-home mom at that point, and she had a nanny at one point. And they say all that, and they're like, there's no excuse for what happened. And I am not going to sit here and tell you with 100% certainty that she could not control herself and that she's not guilty. I'm not going to tell you that because I'm not sure. And I think that we have a lot left to hear to determine that. But I will say that people who are expressing these sentiments online about how much better she had it than them, just because somebody has it better than you doesn't mean they are well. It doesn't mean they're not fucked up. Okay? It doesn't mean they're not hurting. So this idea that because other mothers have had less than her is not a determining factor in her own health, in her own mental state. It doesn't matter. I see a lot of people taking out their own issues and struggles and the things they've been through in the past on this woman. When we look at these situations through the lens of our own experiences, don't limit these situations to your own experiences, and also use that to inform what you're looking at. Use it to understand better the circumstances around what these people were going through, but don't assume that they felt as you felt, that they, acted as you acted. I don't care if she had more or less help than you, right? It doesn't mean that she was or was not able to conform her conduct on the night she was alleged to have had a psychotic episode and killed her children. So just be cautious with that,
Right. Right, because you guys would be different time frames.
Right.
But you all were pulling together as a family, is that
Right.
correct? January, leading up to January 24th. Do you recall, and can you tell the jurors what, if any, observations you made of Lindsay and her condition?
Lindsay had lost a lot of weight. She had become, during this whole time, paranoid about different things that really she shouldn't have, really weren't logical to become paranoid about.
This kind of paranoia that they describe at times is like that is a symptom of sometimes bipolar disorder, sometimes hypomania, mania. It's and I know in hindsight it's easier to look at these things and say that is possibly why that was happening, but what they're describing to me is like it's not enough to, sometimes it's not enough to overtly show you what exactly the problem is, and then when she's able to get it under control for a few days, I'm sure it confused them and they thought, oh, okay, she got better. So then the next time she has an episode, it's okay, we can handle this. It's going to get better. She's never acted on any sort of thoughts of harming anyone or herself. It's going to get better. She would never do that. She would never do that. We can handle this. And so it's very easy to see how they got to a point where they thought she could be left home alone with the kids for 30 to 60 minutes. I know that in hindsight, it's like, yeah, he made a mistake. And he will live with that for the rest of his life. And that's punishment enough. I know that people are like, off with this guy's head. We want him charged with neglect and blah, blah, blah. Nobody thinks their wife is going to kill their children. Especially if she's openly talking about her symptoms, managing them, and has always been able to keep them under control to the point where doctors have found it not necessary to hospitalize her, have sent her away, have sent her home, and the healthcare professionals who are supposed to lock these things down if there's an issue never told them that she wasn't safe to be around her children, because if she wasn't safe to be around her children, she wasn't safe to be alone with herself. And that means she would have had to be on a locked unit with one-to-one observation until she was stable enough to have some more independence. So there's just a lot here that I think people don't see, to where they judge the family and say they were neglectful and that she was crying out for help and no one was helping her. They were helping her, but they weren't equipped to deal with this. They're not professionals, and the professionals turned her away. So.
She would mention that this wasn't her mind. She would say to me, this isn't me. I've never been like this before. And I would agree, because she wasn't. She was attempting to go through the motions of her day, take care of the kids as best she could. She didn't want to drive. So at times when Pat didn't go pick the kids up at school, I would drive Lindsay to pick the kids up at school, because she was afraid to drive.
Did she express to you concern that in this time frame that people at the school, teachers and other people, would be able to know what she was thinking and would think that she wasn't a good mother because she was sick?
Yes, she said the school knows something's going on because I'm not driving my car. They see that I'm not driving my car to pick the kids up.
Do you recall the end of January that she made a statement to you about the medication, in her opinion, what it was doing to her mind?
Yes.
What did she say?
She said that she couldn't remember anything. The medication was pretty much just destroying her mind, and it wasn't her. She said, this isn't me. I just want to feel better and enjoy my kids again.
Now, I know that this is difficult. In December of 2022, do you recall the time that you were in the kitchen with Lindsay and Patrick, and she made a statement about her state of mind to her husband, Pat, and you were there?
Yes.
I know it's difficult. Just tell us what you remember.
I remember her being very nervous. I remember her saying, I just have to tell you guys something. And then she told us.
What did she tell you?
She told us that she had thoughts of harming the children.
Thank you very much.
Okay, so this is where I would expand on that, to where this establishes, of course, that she was in a state where she was having thoughts of hurting the children, which supports the defense case. But people hear that and they think, why didn't the family call? And I just want to emphasize again, these people tried to get her hospitalized and were turned away multiple times. They saw doctors several times. Patrick called it, per the New Yorker article that, if you guys haven't read it yet, he talks about this experience in. He had at one point called a dozen therapists and tried to finally get her a therapist who was available, within a reasonable time frame. And so they've done everything. They've been through all this process. And at some point, the doctors had to explain to them, she's having these thoughts on and off. At some point, it's like you have to assess whether or not these thoughts of harming herself or others are actual desires to hurt, or if they are passive thoughts of harm being done. So, for example, thinking about hurting your baby intentionally and willfully is different than having intrusive thoughts of walking with your baby in your arms, falling, and the baby getting hurt, right? So that's two different types of harm. You have intentional, and you have, I'm worried that this is going to happen. And so it is unsurprising to me that this family, doing the best they could, all exhausted and stressed, because God knows their mental health during all of this couldn't have been perfect. It is not surprising to me that this family didn't explicitly see exactly what they were supposed to do in that moment. And per Patrick's testimony, it did appear, after he followed up with the questions that the doctors told him to ask, were the thoughts disturbing to you? Or are you thinking about, do you have a plan? Are you actually thinking about doing something? And they, determined that she was having these thoughts that something bad was going to happen to the children, that harm was going to befall the children. But she, at that time, said that she did not have active thoughts of killing them, hurting them, right? And so it's easy to see how they might have thought, okay, well, she's having these episodes on and off, but she never acts on these things. We can keep this under control. We're doing what the doctors told us to do. If we go to the ER again, they'll just turn us away. Like, you can see how that happens. I'm not saying that they shouldn't have called someone. I'm not saying they shouldn't have taken them to the ER. I'm saying it is far from, I would say, intentionally negligent, which is why I see people calling for Patrick's head or the parents' heads. You know what I mean? It's like they were doing the best they could. They were following the advice they were given, because our system, and our doctors have to follow the system. Our system is not perfect in that it doesn't treat everything that appears dire like an emergency. It doesn't, because we don't have the capability to hospitalize everybody who has these thoughts. And so people go to the ER, and if people hear they're not in immediate crisis where there's a credible immediate threat of harming people, where you think, I am going to do this, I want to do this, they'll turn you away. And I've seen it happen hundreds of times in my career. I've had people try to argue this with me. They're like, have you ever taken medication? Have you ever gone? Yes, dude. I have seen hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of people, if not thousands, get turned away. Most of our patients some days would get turned away. They wouldn't be hospitalized. I know they would come in and say they had symptoms of depression, severe depression even. They get turned away. They're not hospitalized because we have a unit with 24 to 30 beds and hundreds of patients who come in, and you have to decide who is an immediate threat. And then also, who is so unwell that you strip their rights away, which is a very traumatic thing to do to a person that you do not want to do if you don't have to. And then on another note, at least Florida's law, where I live, says that the mental illness, the symptoms that constitute the emergency have to be exclusively due to mental illness. So if somebody comes in and they have been drinking and they're thrashing around and saying they want to hurt themselves, and then when they sober up, they don't express those thoughts, we are not allowed to hold people based on things they said when substances were in their systems. So like sometimes you get drunk people or high people come in and they are not well, but their symptoms appear to have been linked to the time that they were high or drunk. And so you can only strip away their rights and force them to stay if they express those thoughts and those symptoms are present when they are sober. So there are a lot of scenarios that people don't understand. Like, you don't just lock everyone up that comes in and says, I feel like hurting myself. Like, it's not that happens. And that's because also, if we did that, then patients with baseline suicidal thoughts, recurring suicidal thoughts, would be consistently getting their rights stripped away and going in and out and in and out and in and out. And a lot of people get institutionalized that way as it is. A lot of people's survival method is to say and express these things. Homeless people, especially in the downtown area where I worked, would say and express these things in order to, get a bed on the unit, be taken care of for a few days. And then you would see them go back out into the community and they would come right back. Because the thing is, if they're not explicitly exhibiting any real symptoms of decompensation, psychosis, a threat of harm to self or others, you cannot keep people past 72 hours if they don't want to stay, unless they are so bad off that you can prove to a court that the court should allow you to keep them there for longer. And that doesn't happen very often. So that goes back to Lindsay leaving McLean after 5 days. And people say, why did they let her go? Well, after 72 hours, or I don't know the laws of that state, but after a certain period of time, you're not allowed to force somebody to stay unless they want to stay, or you get a court order. And if you cannot get a court order unless somebody's explicitly showing you signs of danger. So I just think there's a lot people don't understand here. So I'll stop ranting now. But
why don't we take the afternoon recess at this time? We'll come back for cross-examination. All right. So, ma'am, you can step down.
Thank you.
All right. So, members of the jury, we're going to take the break at this time. We expect to have you back about 2 o'clock. Okay.
All rise, please. Your objection.
We're going to move to, they're going to cross-exam. Let me look at the timestamp. Okay. They went on their lunch break, so we'll move up here. Let's see. Not quite yet. The streams, if you guys want to watch this stuff, the streams, they say they're like 6 hours long, but there's like 2 hours of breaks in this. So sometimes you can just listen to it during the day. You just have to skip the breaks. So we're just going to skip ahead to 5:25, where the prosecutors are going to ask her some questions.
Do you have some water up there?
I do, thank you.
Okay. Somebody brought up this point. We also don't yank people out of their home or the street because of these types of thoughts. People would be screaming about the violation of their civil rights. So historically, a lot of the reason some of these bigger hospitals and longer term hospitals got shut down is because the system was being abused to lock away women, especially when people thought they were like, quote unquote, hysterical. Right? So they were being wrongfully held and hospitalized for long periods of time in these facilities where they were being abused or not treated right. And we made the horrible sweeping mistake, in my opinion, of just closing all the asylums, which was a huge, huge mistake, because now we're left with a system that is bare bones. It is not equipped to deal with a lot of people's problems, especially like people who have, for example, so like I'll have a patient who comes in and they are legitimately suicidal on the brink of hurting themselves. And I'm like, I have to hold this person against their will. I talk to the doctor. I say, hey, I think we need to keep this guy here. We need to send him to a psych unit. But say they have sleep apnea and they have a CPAP. You know what that means? CPAP has a cord on it. And you cannot leave somebody with a cord on a psych unit without being watched 24/7. So unless we have enough staff on the unit, which is severely understaffed and underpaid, because nurses on psych units are, my God, they are not appreciated enough. Unless we have enough staff, even if we have bed space, which is usually not the case, to have somebody watching that person every single minute for 24 hours a day, we have to try to send them somewhere else. So then that patient who is suicidal with sleep apnea is stuck until I can find them a facility somewhere else where they can go, where they have a place that they can put these machines and have somebody watch them, where they can be safe. Otherwise, they might try to harm themselves with that, use it as a ligature, and try to harm themselves. So that patient ends up waiting all weekend for a bed. Finally, I find a facility who's willing to take the patient, who can handle their medical needs as well as their psychiatric needs. And then I still have to arrange an ambulance transport as secure transport, not emergent. Of course, it's not like a 911 call, but I still have to arrange an ambulance to come pick this person up from my hospital and send them to the other hospital. And when they get to that hospital, then the clock starts. And then they might have to stay there for 3 days. It's like, think about it. When you're in the worst moments of your life, you're floridly psychotic, or you're so depressed you want to kill yourself, you're thinking about harming other people, you're most likely in an emergency room with no privacy, because by law we are required to have eyes on you at all times, and somebody has to do your vitals and check every so often, and they have to round on you every 15 minutes, and you have no privacy. There are drug-addled patients or people who are bleeding out coming in and out beside you, which is not great for your mental health issue that you're already having. It is a whole terrible experience. A whole terrible experience. So when we don't have somewhere to send people, that's the experience they end up having. They're stuck. And they're facing really traumatic circumstances. They're stripped of their phones and everything else. They put you in these specific colored scrubs and grippy socks. You cannot communicate with anybody unless you want to use the phone that you have to use in front of everybody else in the emergency room, where there are no rooms. They're just beds lined up next to each other. So, your grandmother who's having a cough and chest pain might be stuck next to somebody who is floridly psychotic and methed out and freaking out. So it's not a safe place a lot of the time either, because hospitals don't want to pay for good security. This is the experience that patients have because we don't have anywhere for them to go. And so you do not want to put somebody in that situation unless you absolutely have to. And that's why our criteria is stricter than people realize. And that's why a lot of people get turned away. End that rant now. Okay. Sorry about that.
Court, all rise, please. Jurisdiction.
Omar says, oh, hey, Omar, what's up, by the way? Also, the 60s and 70s were a thing. Well, Omar, how do you even remember that? You were only 40 in the 60s. So.
Court is back in session. You may be seated.
For the purpose of the record, we return back to the trial of Commonwealth versus Lindsay Clancy. All parties are present, including the defendant and his two jurors.
All right, thank you, Madam Clerk. Trudy Sprague?
Thank you, Your Honor. Good afternoon.
Afternoon.
Now, you testified in direct examination about the statements that Lindsay made in December about having thoughts about harming the children. When in December was that?
I don't exactly remember. I would say early to mid December, probably maybe earlier rather than mid-December, but I don't exactly remember when.
Okay. And when she made the statement that she had thoughts of harming the children, did either you or Patrick ask her what she meant by that?
I believe I remember Pat asking her if she felt like she couldn't be alone with the children, and she said no.
And after she made those statements, did you have any thoughts about committing her?
No.
Did you have any thoughts about having her come stay with you in Connecticut away from the children?
No.
Were you concerned for the children's safety at that point in time?
No, because I was there.
And
So again, these people who have been going through this with Lindsay for a while are asking every question that these doctors told them to ask. Every sign, they're looking for every sign these doctors told them to look for, and she's telling them no when it comes down to it. She's, even when she says, like, I'm having thoughts of harming, or I'm having thoughts of harming myself, it's like the thoughts that she would clarify she was having, according to testimony, was that harm would happen. Harm would happen to these children, right? Not that she would do anything to them. So these people ask every question they're supposed to ask. And when they ask those questions, all those questions that she's supposed to ask, and she gives them positive answers, and they watch her, and nothing bad happens. Nothing bad happens. And they've asked all the questions, even though she's had the thoughts. It teaches them that she can handle this, that she's okay. So they're under the impression that they have done everything the doctors told them to do, and that even though they're facing something scary, they can manage it. And so when people, bag on this family, Patrick, or the parents, and they say they're negligent, they deserve to be charged, I'm like, dude, these people did everything they were supposed to do. Everything. And it ended in tragedy, and no, they do not deserve to be on trial for that. The person who killed the children is on trial. We're here to determine whether or not she could have reasonably stopped herself. So.
you were asked about some text messages in October, and those are now an exhibit, I believe. Exhibit 276. And so you talked about the text on the 20th when she asked you to come and she was having a hard time, right?
Yes.
A day before, on October 19th, she had sent you a different text message stating, "Hi, Mom, would you ever consider coming to stay with us for a couple days at a time to help with childcare so I can work?" And talking to a therapist and doing a lot of thinking, I actually think going to work will help me, but it's really hard with nurses' hours to get childcare that we need. I'm thinking if you could come like Sunday to mid-Tuesday, it'd be really helpful. Just a thought. Do you remember that text the day before?
Yes.
And did you agree in a text message that you said I can come and help out?
Yes.
And then after that next day is when she said she was having trouble and wanted you there then, and you went that day, correct? But you said you were there for about a week, but there's a text on October 20th that's not included in this exhibit, where on October 24th at 2:36 p.m., you send a text to her saying, "How are things today?" And she responds, "Good." You remember that?
Yes.
So were you already home at that point when you were asking her how she was doing on the 24th?
I must have been home at that point. I honestly don't remember. I was back and forth so many times. So the time frames are really jumbled in my head as far as how long I stayed any particular time.
And so
I just caught myself on mute again. So I just want to remind you guys again, like, I've seen a lot of comments saying, why didn't they do this? Why didn't they do that? Why don't they remember this to the T? Why don't they remember that? If I went through this, I would remember this or that. You have no idea what you would remember if you went through what these people went through. Okay. And so them not remembering every detail of what happened 3 years ago is a perfectly normal experience. And so I hate when people say, why doesn't she remember that? Why wouldn't you remember that? And act like Patrick's a murderer because he doesn't remember every detail of every single fucking thing on the worst night of his life perfectly, because trauma doesn't stay in our brains perfectly clearly for 3 years like that. And then for the mother, like, people saying like, oh, well, why would she even say that? It sounds like she doesn't remember. No, you can remember, right? You can remember a lot, but sometimes you don't remember every single detail. It's normal. There's nothing wrong with that. And they can try to impeach your credibility of your memory based on you not remembering everything, but we'll see how that goes here, because like it sounds like she very clearly remembers what led up to this, but around some of the time closer to the actual incident when the children were killed, she might not remember everything perfectly, and that's okay. It doesn't mean she's evil or lying.
You would go and help out when they asked you to, and then you would go home when things were calmed down a little bit. Is that right?
Not exactly right.
No? And she did say on the 24th that she was doing good that day, correct?
I don't recall, but if that's what the text says, then
Here you go, if you can look at it.
yeah. Okay,
So she told you at that point on the 24th she was doing good, right?
correct.
You have this page marked as the next exhibit.
Any objection?
No.
Maybe.
So the prosecutors here, they are trying to establish that Lindsay was cold and calculated and fully within her right mind and capacity to stop herself from killing their kids, and also that she did it in a premeditated way. The prosecutor's asking the mother here, she said she was good, right? And she's saying, yes. She said she was good. Okay. So she was good. She was doing better. And they ask her about a text message where the mother sends, glad to hear you're doing better. And they take that to try to make their case that she was mentally sound and not debilitatingly crippled by her mental illness. And the problem with that is this mother was trying to send an encouraging text to her daughter, and the daughter just said, I feel better. But if you go from feeling like shit to crap, that's not good. Better doesn't mean shit. And if you think that it does, then you better establish that very clearly. You better have some way to show the jury why you think her condition is better, not just that her mother sent her a nice text. And by the way, these prosecutors, they show no compassion at all whatsoever for the grandmother who lost her grandchildren at the hands of her daughter. I don't give a shit if it's performative. It would have done the prosecution well, in my opinion, to show some compassion. I'm so sorry for your loss. I know this is going to be hard to talk about, but I need to ask you some questions. Just even if you're performing for the jury, that's going to help your job, right? What is it with these prosecutors? Like, they're doing a terrible job presenting their case. And I legitimately think that there is a way that they could present this that would plant in the minds of the jury that she had control. But they're not doing that. They're fumbling, and it's weird. I don't understand. I do not understand this strategy at all.
You'd be marked.
277.
Now, you talked about a time when you went to her home and you actually ended up sleeping with her because she didn't want to be alone. Was that October 20th visit?
No,
When was that?
that was, I can't exactly remember when. I'm going to say probably sometime in November, the latter part of November, maybe the early part of December.
Did she tell you why she was afraid to be alone?
She just said she was afraid to be alone. And one reason, I believe, she said she didn't know if she was going to be able to sleep, but mainly she was afraid to be alone.
And at that point in time, did you consider having her committed to a psychiatric facility?
No.
And did you feel the need to call 911 that day or get her immediate assistance?
No.
You mentioned that in January, you saw her and she lost weight. She seemed paranoid about things, seemed to be going through the motions of each day. How often did you see her in January of 2023?
In January, I can't exactly remember how many times I saw her. We were, again, back and forth.
So we have Exhibit 238, which have all of your text messages with Lindsay in January of 2023. And I just want to go through some of them with you. So on page 17 of the exhibit, This is on January 4th, 2023, so the day before she was discharged from McLean. And she sent you a text stating, "Think I'm coming home tomorrow evening, exclamation point. I talked to the doctor and I made up a follow-up appointment with my other psychiatrist besides Rebecca for Friday morning. So she said she'd be okay with me leaving Thursday around 5. Do you remember getting those messages?
Yep.
And were you staying at the home helping out with the kids at that point?
Yes.
And did you go to Cora's birthday party on the 7th?
I did not. It was a children's party. I stayed home with Callan.
I was muted again. Okay. As I put up a comment here, it says, but she wasn't diagnosed with anything as severe until after the murder. So that is why the prosecution is going with this line of questioning, in my opinion. So the thing is, that's a bad line of questioning because she's not being charged for not going to the doctor or not having a specific diagnosis, right? Like, she's not even being charged for lying to her doctors about her symptoms, because even if she did lie to her doctors about her symptoms, that's not a crime. I mean, it's not smart. It's not smart at all. But what matters is the state that she was in when she committed the crime. So this line of questioning about her diagnosis and about, she said she felt better on this day. It's like, it doesn't really matter when it comes down to it. This kind of defense, it all comes down to what was going on in the moment, what was going on that day, what led up to it, what does she remember from when it happened, and you know, did she actually have the ability to conform her conduct? So like, because you can go your whole life and feel fine, and then like someday in your 20s you get a diagnosis that changes everything because you finally had a break, right? Like it's onset later in life. You can't, as a prosecutor, pinpoint exactly when that happened, I don't think. And even if you could try, it is so easy as the defense to say, like, well, she obviously didn't know that that's what was going on with her. We can't reasonably expect her to know that, you know? So, like, it's just, I don't think it's a great strategy. Everything about the prosecutor's strategy, their approach, their presentation, it's just, I don't know. I just think they could have done a way better job, and it's not over yet. So I'm keeping an open mind, right? Like I said, I'm not going to sit here and say she is definitely not guilty by reason of insanity. I'm not going to tell you that. I'm not going to tell you she definitely is guilty, because I still don't know. But we're learning a lot here. But the thing is, like, the presentation, the way they're approaching this, I'm just kind of like, dude, you guys are, you're fucking this up. So.
And do you recall when you went home?
I don't recall.
I'm looking at page 28, and there's a text from Lindsay on January 7th, 2023 at 7:02 p.m. to you where it says, "Make it home okay," and you said, "Yep." Does that make sense that you would have gone home on the 7th after the birthday party?
Yes, if that's what the text says, yes.
And then on page 29, we have text messages between yourself and Lindsay on January 8th, where you ask how things are going today, and she says, "Good, going to the Science Museum." You say,
okay, so these text messages, they're trying to show that she's doing well, she's stable, she's doing fine, she's in control of herself, like a long time before she actually commits the murders. The thing is, I don't care if 2 weeks ago you were doing great and taking your kids to the museum. On the day this happened, she might have thought she was the bird god of Saturn. Okay? You can't prove with this line of questioning that on the day it happened, she was incapable of stopping herself and that she knew what she was doing based on this line of questioning. Like, great. She was doing great 2 weeks ago. Okay? So, like, how many people have felt like shit and 2 weeks ago they felt fine? You know what I mean? So, like, it's just not, this is not helpful, in my opinion.
"Great, that will be fun. Sleep good last night." And she said, "I actually did, with less Ativan, so that was good." Do you remember that?
I don't recall the exact text messages.
Do you recall her texting you about going to the Science Museum?
No, I don't recall that.
Do you think looking at them might help?
Sure.
I'm going to show you page 29 and then page 30. Does that refresh your memory?
That's what the text says, yes.
And then on page 34, you ask how the museum was today, and Lindsay sent you some photographs and said it was fun. The kids really liked it. Do you remember that?
I don't really recall the Museum of Science experience or text, but if they're there in the text messages, then they were sent, yes.
Okay. Then on page 39, this is January 10th. You say at 9:48 a.m., "Good morning, how are you doing today?" And Lindsay responded, "Good, at the gym with the kids." You said, "Nice, still sleeping good?" And she responded, "Pretty good, yeah, not perfect, but enough." And you said, "Are you feeling any better during the day?" And she said, "So far, a little bit."
My immediate defense to that line of questioning would be, how many of us have lied to our mothers? Like, how many of us have lied to our mothers when we don't want to deal with their worry and we're like, it's okay. I'll worry about it later. I don't want to freak her out. You know what I mean? How many of us have lied because we didn't want a family member to worry about us when they were already going through so much, or they were so busy, or they were doing something? Like, that's immediately a way to lodge some doubt in that line of questioning. I think it's just like, you're not doing anything for me here.
They said a week off the Seroquel should make more of a difference, so a couple more days till that, but I do think it's helping being off. And you responded, "Okay, a little at a time." Do you remember that conversation?
So I don't recall the exact conversation. I think I probably texted back and forth to Lindsay almost daily during that time. So I don't remember the specific text messages, but I would say if they're there, then that's what we sent back to each other.
Okay. And then there were further text messages that day. Where you say, "How was your day?" later on in the day. And she said it was good, played with the kids a lot, were able to go outside, Kingsbury Club and gymnastics, kept them busy, and me too. So do you remember her talking to you during that time about going to gymnastics and going to the Kingsbury Club and things like that with the children?
I don't remember the specific text, but I do remember her doing things with the children, yes.
Wow, I gotta stop muting myself. So I just pulled up this comment. It says, "Why lie when she was begging for help?" I guess that's related to, like I just said, how many of us have lied to our mothers or our family members when we didn't want them to worry, or we didn't want to deal with talking about it. Never assume that somebody in the throes of mental illness is going to act in a way that makes sense. I'll put it that way. Never assume that, especially because when you are in a depressive state, a lot of the times you're like, I don't want to deal with other people's thoughts on how I'm feeling, to the point that a lot of patients will just be like, "Yeah, I'm great. I'm fine. Whatever." They won't tell people what they're going through. So it happens a lot. And that's why you see sometimes heartbreaking stories where somebody has committed suicide, and the family's like, "He was perfectly happy. We have no idea." Because they do lie. They do hide. And it's not a malicious lie, right? It's a self-preservation thing where you're like, I don't have the energy for this. I don't have the energy to perform for other people. I don't have the energy to make everybody think I'm perfect. And so you just tell them you're fine. You just tell them everything's great. And it's not. So that's that. In my experience, a lot of people behave that way. I'm not saying like it's a valid question for you to ask, for sure, because like a normal person who's in a normal state is like, of course, why would you lie when you also want help? But the thing is, like, you can want help and not have the energy to try to get it at the same time if you are severely, severely ill like this. So it's a possibility. I'm just saying, I'm kind of playing like devil's advocate when I see people asking questions up here. When they do a redirect, I'll be the same way, I'm sure. But I try to look at every possibility. Let's put it that way. Oh my God, I just skipped over that. My bad. Let me go to the timestamp again. 5:35:00. So we were here.
Of each day. How often did you see her in January of 2023?
Hold on, guys. Let me find exactly what timestamp we were at. I'll go back in the stream here. Hold on. Hmm. 5:35. Okay. Got it. I was 5 minutes behind. Okay, we'll go here.
Where you say, how was your day later on in the day? And she said it was good, played with the kids a lot, were able to go outside, Kingsbury Club and gymnastics, kept them busy, and me too. So do you remember her talking to you during that time about going to gymnastics and going to the Kingsbury Club and things like that with the children?
I don't remember the specific text, but I do remember her doing things with the children, yes.
Then on January 11th, the following day, you sent a text, excuse me, how are you feeling today? And she responded with a photo of Callan drinking out of a Mary Lou's cup, saying, we have another Mary Lou's fan. And you said, decaf looks like he's enjoying it.
What's a Mary Lou's cup?
And then later on, you asked again, how are you doing today? And she said, hi, Mom, doing all right. Nothing new, really, just taking it day by day. You said, still feeling a little better. And she said, a little bit. You said, sleeping okay. She said, not great last night because Cora was up with a bellyache. Do you remember that?
So again, we texted so many times daily, twice daily, maybe 3 times daily. So I can't say that I remember the specific text. I do remember the picture of Callan with the Mary Lou cup because that stands out in my mind. But the specific text going back and forth, we just did it so often that I can't say I remember the specific text you're reading back to me. Okay. But again, if they were there, then we sent them.
Right. And do you remember?
Again, like if I'm a juror and I'm watching that exchange, I'm just kind of like, why are y'all making this harder for this lady than it already is? Okay, we'll keep going. I'm not going to sit here and make fun of the prosecutors on it, but like, I don't know. I don't like that they should have at least, and like I said earlier, even if it's performative, lawyers in front of juries are supposed to be kind of performative, right? They're supposed to try to persuade things to their side. I think this lady would have done better in her line of questioning and her performance overall if she had treated and approached the witnesses, the family members, especially with some compassion. Like, I'm so sorry for your loss. I know these are hard questions to answer, but I do have to ask them. Just a little small thing like that, I think would go a long way. And I think these people just don't even think about it. So,
Lindsay talking to you about Cora having stomach issues during the month of January?
Yes.
Some belly aches off and on?
Yes.
And then January 13th, again, you're checking in with her. Hi, Lindsay, how are you today? She said, hi, Mom, pretty good today. How about you? And you asked about the little ones. And she said, all good, went to the gym this morning, just hanging out. And now they have no school today. And then the following day, again, you're checking in. Hi, Lindsay, how's your Saturday going? She said, hi, Mom, it's going well, just hanging out. It's yucky here. So these are like daily check-ins that you're doing, checking in on her, seeing if she's okay, seeing if she's feeling better, seeing if she's sleeping well, things like that, right?
Yes.
You also ask her that day on the 14th, do you feel any different since being off the Seroquel? She says, not as much as I was hoping, going to talk to my psychiatrist about it on Monday. You say, but some. She says a little, but I still don't feel like you, but then she corrects it to me. And you ask her if she's going to be able to get outside with the kids today, and she said she's going to try.
So I just want to point out Seroquel. If you guys have never had Seroquel, it is a very strong drug. It can be used in schizophrenic patients, but also some doctors prescribe it for other reasons. So I once had a doctor who I was having problems with insomnia, a really stressful time in my life, and so I was prescribed Seroquel. I took it one time. I took the lowest dose possible, and I cut it in half. And I took half of the lowest dose the pharmacy could provide. And the entire next day, I could barely keep my eyes open. It is terrible. And for some people who have like severe mental health issues as far as like psychotic disorders, etc., sometimes it works, right? For some people it works, but these meds, they have a different effect on everybody. Like I had to go to work that next day and I had to leave early because I was like, I literally cannot stay awake. And I never took it again. So some of these drugs they have her on are more powerful than people realize. It is, I was like, I couldn't even drive home for a while. I had to like sit, take a nap for a bit. It was awful. All right.
So similar conversations to that where you're talking about medication and how she's doing on the medication?
Yes, I get.
Then the following day, on the 15th of January, you say, good morning. Is it a good morning for you today? She says, good morning. It's pretty good going to an indoor water park. And she tells you that it's at the Cape Cotter. Do you remember them going to the Cape Cotter water park?
I do remember them going there, yes.
And then on the following day, on the 16th, you actually are doing checking in on her, seeing if she's okay, seeing if she's feeling better, seeing if she's sleeping well, things like that. Then she corrects it to me. And you ask her if she's going to be able to get outside with the kids today, and she said she's going to try. So similar conversations to that where you're talking about medication and how she's doing on the medication?
Yes, I get.
Then the following day, on the 15th of January, you say, good morning. Is it a good morning for you today? She says, good morning. It's pretty good going to an indoor water park. And she tells you that it's at the Cape Cotter. Do you remember them going to the Cape Cotter water park?
I do remember them going there, yes.
And then on the following day, on the 16th, you actually texted her, how was the water park yesterday? She said it was fun. Cora and Dawson enjoyed. Callan didn't know what to think of it. Couldn't get any pics because it was too hectic, keeping track of them in the water and stuff. And it was busy, but it was a good time.
Swear to God, I have to stop muting myself. So somebody asked here, Beagle Mama 90, how can prosecutors keep getting up there and asking people, so you spoke to Lindsay this day and she seemed okay, right? What does that even mean? What is okay? Well, what is okay is obviously going to be subjective, right? But I guess they're trying to establish a pattern of different days over this period of time where she said she was fine or better so that they can try to make their case that she was stable. What is okay, of course, is going to be subjective. That's, again, why I think there's a big problem with the line of questioning they're asking and what they're trying to present here is like, you could say that okay for somebody who is a schizophrenic is relatively, worse off to somebody who has an anxiety disorder and is doing okay. They're like, oh, okay, I just feel a little nervous today. Whereas the schizophrenic patient might say, I feel okay today. I'm hearing voices, but I can manage it. You know what I mean? Like it's subjective, very subjective. So
Does that sound familiar, that they had a good time that day? And you asked her that day if she had anything planned, and she said Pat took Cora skiing, so she was hanging with the boys. Do you remember that?
Not specifically. I don't remember that text.
She, that same day, sent you some photographs of Dawson doing a drawing of a firefighter and Callan. Do you remember receiving those?
I do remember the pictures, yes.
Then the following day, again, you're checking in every day. You say, you feeling better? She says a little bit. You said still taking the same medication. She said yes, about to have an appointment with her psychiatrist. You said, let me know how it goes. And she said, okay. And then she responds back after her appointment. She recommended another antidepressant since my mood is still very low off the Seroquel. You asked her how she felt about it, and she told you she just wants to feel like herself again, but she's up for trying it, and she just wants to get back to who she was, right?
Correct.
And she told you it was amitriptyline. Is that right? Do you remember that?
I don't remember the medication.
Then on the 18th, January 18th, again, you're reaching out and she says, "Hi, Mom, I'm doing all right. How about you?" And you say, you're good. You're thinking about visiting that weekend. And she says, "That sounds good." And you ask her about being able to get out and exercise. And she said she's been walking on the treadmill at the gym for exercise. And you asked her if she started a new medication and if she's feeling better. And she says, "Feel okay, just not great. I did start it 2 nights ago." You said, "Is that the one that takes a while to feel the effects?" She said, "Yep, weeks." And you said, "Is the okay that you're feeling now better than what you were feeling a few weeks ago?" And she said, "Yes." Do you remember that?
Again, I don't remember the specific text, just
So that's okay. I'll give them like half a point there. That's relatively like they're establishing that she was improving. How about that? So they were showing that she was improving according to what she was telling her mother. So that's something. I'm reaching to give them some points, but like I think that's okay. Yeah, we'll see.
remember texting back and forth daily about how she's feeling, about, what's different medication wise, but I can't say I remember that specific text that you're reading me. But again, if they're there, then they were done by us.
Right. And so on the 19th of January, again, you're checking in and say, "How are you feeling today? Can you tell if anything's different with the new medication?" She says, "I'm feeling all right. Nothing new really yet because it takes weeks to really work, but I'm okay." You asked if she's still sleeping well, and she says decently, and the kids get up a lot. So again, more of the same check-ins daily, seeing how she's doing, seeing how she's sleeping, right?
Correct.
And then on the 20th, you reach out, "Is it pizza and movie night?" She says, "Just pizza and playing." And you tell her you're leaving at 9, bringing dessert for the kids. And she says, "Sounds great." So you're talking about your visit that weekend. Is that right?
Yes.
And in these texts prior to the visit, you say that it's been a while since you've seen them. So it sounds like from these texts, you're checking in with her every day from January 7th, 2023, all the way up to your visit on January 21st, 2023. You're checking in with her. So you're at home in Connecticut from the 7th until the 21st.
Correct.
So I guess it's, from the 7th to the 21st, 3 weeks. 3 weeks that she didn't need extra help from her mom, whereas she did before. So I guess the prosecution is somewhat showing there that she had improved to the point that she no longer needed that extra help, that extra assistance. I guess that's where they're going there.
And then on the 22nd, that Sunday, Lindsay, Pat, and the older kids, they go to the Carney's house for that bonfire and get together. And you stayed home with Callan, right?
Correct.
And then after they get home, you and your husband left, is that correct?
Yes.
And on the way home, you texted on January 22nd, 2023 at 7:55 p.m. "Enjoyed seeing everyone this weekend. Nice to see you doing better." Is that correct?
If that's what that says, yes, that's correct. I don't exactly remember the text, but yes, if that's what it says, yes.
So from your text, not saying she was doing great, but she was doing better than she was, according to your text, or appeared.
Why would you frame it like that? She doesn't have to answer anything you don't ask her. Why would you frame it like that? Why wouldn't you just say, doesn't seem like she's doing great, but she's doing better? Don't leave the first part out, bro. Just say, okay, sounds like she's doing better. Don't. All right. Okay.
Good to be.
The text from me was meant to encourage her because I didn't think it did any good to discourage her. So the text was meant not necessarily what I actually observed that weekend, but it was meant to encourage her because I was encouraging her to do things with the kids to kind of try to get back to normal. So it's not necessarily a representation of exactly what I observed that weekend.
But that weekend, she was able to go to a friend's house with the older kids and Pat and spend a few hours there, correct?
Correct.
And she was able to do activities and hang out with you and your husband. There's a photograph and evidence of the two of you sitting on the couch smiling and hanging out together. So you were able to interact with her, correct?
Correct. The photograph was taken by Cora because Cora wanted to use my phone and take her picture. So Lindsay and I were going to put a smile on our face and let Cora take a picture. Yes. But again, there was other observations I made that weekend, but it was not, I didn't think it was in Lindsay's best interest to discourage her or point out those because she was making every attempt to feel better and to do things to make herself feel better. So as a mother, I was encouraging her.
Okay, so here's the problem with that. The jury, after this line of questioning and these answers, is now, some of them at least, probably are going to think not that Lindsay was fine, but that Lindsay was trying everything she could to feel better, and it sounds like she was still doing bad. So, like I said earlier, I wouldn't have asked that. I wouldn't ask these questions this way. So the prosecutor says, well, it sounds like she wasn't doing great, but she was doing, don't ask like that. Say, sounds like she had improved from the condition that she was in earlier. That's, you don't establish like, oh, she's still bad, right? You need to leave that part out. That's kind of how I would have approached that. But I'm not a lawyer, so I mean, maybe I just don't know. That's, in my opinion, that is how that should have been handled. But this entire line of questioning, again, is just, it's kind of just showing that she kept trying and trying and trying. And you're not helping. You're not helping yourself.
Well, you didn't say, I hope you feel better, or you're going to get there, or you're doing it. You actually said, nice to see you doing better, correct? That's
Lady! Lady! Like I said, it's like saying you felt like shit and now you feel like crap. Like, it doesn't mean that you feel good. Okay.
what you wrote.
Those were my encouraging words, yes.
And from January 7th up through January 22nd, Lindsay repeatedly told you she was doing okay. She was feeling a little bit better. Not completely better, not 100%, but she kept telling you, I feel a little bit better. I feel a little bit better. You even asked her, is the better?
Again, leave that out. Leave that out. Just feeling a little bit better, and then you can stop there. You don't have to keep talking. Just feeling a little bit better, and then a little bit better. You don't have to say, not 100%. And then, like, God.
You're feeling now better than a few weeks ago, and she said yes, correct?
That's correct without my observation of her.
And what she was responding to you in text, correct?
Correct.
I'm just like,
you also spoke.
These people, like, they come across as very, like, I don't know if cold is the right word, right? But the way they're questioning this person also is like they're always acknowledging that, oh, well, she wasn't 100%. Oh, well, not great. You know, they're always acknowledging before they ask their question that the answer to their question doesn't mean she wasn't having a hard time. That's not helpful to your line. All right.
Spoke to the police on January 25th, 2023. Do you remember that?
I do.
Do you remember telling the police that Lindsay seemed to be improving since leaving McLean?
I do not recall. I remember speaking to the police. I had just found out what had happened, and I was pretty much in shock. So anything I remember, honestly, I remember 2 things I told the police. Anything else that you have there, I must have said, but I don't recall them. I've been going through my mind. I can honestly recall 2 things I told the police during that interview. I was pretty much in shock.
Okay, so do you remember telling them that she seemed brighter lately?
I don't recall.
Thank you.
All right, Mr. Reddington?
Oh, you mean the ones that you didn't want?
Yes.
It's not too much longer in this, guys. I know it's been a long stream, but thanks for sticking around.
Which would be,
Here.
that's all right, I can check later. Just looking here through the exhibits, District Attorney stood up and said to you that I had introduced into evidence and showed you Exhibit 276, which would be a list of texts dated on October 19th. Do you remember that? It was the black one. It was the copies. It wasn't green. You recall that this was introduced into evidence? Recall her questioning you from this?
On October 19th?
Yeah, this is the one that I had introduced, Exhibit 276, and the date would be October 19th, your text thread.
Oh, yes, yes, I'm sorry.
And then she said, well, there's something missing, and went up and said to you, this.
YouTube lets us give out 10 free memberships. Creators get to give out 10 free memberships a month now. So I just gave out 5. So if you got one of those, cool. You get a membership for 30 days, and you can go to my YouTube channel, look on the members tab, and you can see everything I've ever done that's members only at that point. We'll keep watching here. I just wanted to let you guys know that's what's going on there. So if you have a green name now, that means you got one of those. All right.
Text, which would be 277. You recall that? I'm going to show it to you.
Yes.
Okay. So what I had introduced was a text thread from October 19th up through and including October 20th. Is that fair to say? Right there?
Yes.
Okay. And the reason I introduced this is because we had introduced earlier, like a whole lot of pages text. And I wanted to focus on the text thread where she said, Mommy, can you stay?
Objection.
Sustained.
So when the district attorney suggested that there's something missing, like I left it out or something, is it fair to say that Exhibit 277 is a totally different date? Look at the date. What is the date that the DA is talking about? You see it on there?
10/23.
10/23. It has nothing to do with the text thread that I introduced, right? It's a day or two after that, right?
Right.
If you know.
Yes.
Now, we had introduced into evidence also the Celebrate record as Exhibit 238 that the state police for the district attorney's office had printed out. That is only the month of January. Do you recall that testimony?
Yes.
And then I introduced into evidence, or tried to introduce into evidence, all of the texts between you and your daughter, right?
Yes.
I think, Your Honor, that's what's. Okay. This was, I attempted to introduce it, it was objected to, I believe, and it was marked for identification. I would now like to reoffer this in its entirety.
Let's see counsel sidebar, please.
Okay. So going to sidebar. I don't know if this was when it happened, but at some point, I read on Defense Diaries, Bob from Defense Diaries has been in the courtroom and he's been tweeting, they've been tweeting updates during the day. And at some point, we know that Patrick Clancy's lawyer went up to the, when they were doing a sidebar, went up there. I don't know if that was right at this moment or if it was at the end, but I don't think we can see it here because if they're doing a sidebar, they're not going to show us. Her testimony is almost done here, and then we'll be good to go. But I just want to finish.
Thank you very much. That's all I have.
All right.
Oh yeah, the YouTube memberships that I give out, they are totally random. I don't get to pick who I give them to, so just letting you guys know.
One of the text messages on October 23rd and October 24th, that was to establish when you left the home that week of the 20th, correct? Because you said, how are things today? And she said, good, implying that you were no longer with them, correct?
I believe so, yes.
Thank you.
All right. Anything on that, counsel?
Oh, no, thank you.
All right, thank you, ma'am. Let me sit down. Thank you.
All right, they had the emergency room doctors, or at least one of the emergency room doctors, testified after this, but I'm going to do that tomorrow, just because we've already been here for 2.5 hours. Right now, I'm going to end this and send you to my friend Omar, the Tilted Lawyer. You might have seen me with him last week. And he's going to walk you through this from a legal perspective. So when I end this stream, it'll redirect you over there. Or I'm also going to put a link in the chat so that you can find him. And I will be in the chat over there if you guys want to watch him. Let's see. Don't forget to hit the like button for me. It helps me out a lot. I appreciate that. And here's Omar's channel link, the video link. We went over a lot tonight. So like I said, I'll do this the rest of that tomorrow, and then whatever else comes up tomorrow during the actual trial, I'll try to weave that together. We'll start with the ER doctor and then go from there. I wasn't gonna do like every day of this trial, but I'm thinking about it now. So we'll see how it goes tomorrow. We'll go from there. So all right, thanks everyone. I will see you tomorrow. Bye.